In Australia, when flashing blue and red lights appear in your mirror, things are a little bit different than in most other parts of the world. Because there's not just a regular patrol car after you. It's a roaring muscle machine built for speed and pursuit. For decades, Australian police have relied on muscle legends, from Falcon GT to Commodore SS. These weren't just squad cars, but rather road warriors packed with V8 power, heavy-duty upgrades, and the most specific kind of authority you could imagine. Let's check the top 5 police spec muscle cars in Australia. The Falcon GT is one of the biggest legends of Australian highway patrol units. Raw power, durability, and high-speed compatibility. Muscle cars were at their peak back in the 1970s, and the Falcon GT was the perfect police vehicle to keep up with increasingly popular civilian muscle cars. The Falcon GT was a staple of highway patrol units down under, with several generations being in active and successful use for decades. Simply, it was one of the fastest sedans back in the day, designed for fast open highways and rural stretches, and more than capable of catching bad guys. When we talk about specific iterations, the XY-GT-HO Phase 3 stands out as one of the most famous police muscle cars in Australia. Equipped with the famous 351 Cleveland V8, the case was officially rated at 223 kilowatts, but the actual output was significantly higher, probably around 280 kilowatts, which was enough to hit 100 kilometers per hour in about 6 seconds. The Falcon GT would come with numerous upgrades over civilian versions, with additional cooling systems and reinforced suspension. But probably the most interesting was the higher final drive ratio, which would improve highway performance significantly and ensure the top speed of 227 kilometers per hour. The later XA and XB models would carry on the same Cleveland V8, but with further improvements in aerodynamics and handling. Differences compared to civilian versions were, of course, numerous. One of the easy-to-presume things was the unique dashboard layout to accommodate police radios and sirens. But these Falcons often had hidden kill switches to prevent theft when left idling during roadside stops. Moreover, some units would make additional tweaks, like carburetor and exhaust upgrades, to get even more power. Altogether, Falcon GTs were truly remarkable machine in these police versions, built for speed and resilience, true legends of the Australian law enforcement. The Monaro is one of the most iconic Australian muscle cars of all time, and of course, it had its peak back in the 1960s and 1970s. But did you know that this gorgeous coupe was also used by law enforcement units? Would you have thought that the Australian police would find such a sleek design so useful? But if you think again, it had all it needed for such a task. Aerodynamics, of course, were impressive, along with a powerful V8 engine and quite precise handling. It was one of the fastest cars around, so the chances of being outrun by speeding drivers were minimal. This coupe was a perfect blend of performance and durability, the police's trusted weapon for endless patrols and most challenging chases. Its debut in police forces was back in the late 1960s. Of course, the famous HK series and the GTS 327 version, with a massive 5.4-liter V8 with 186 kilowatts and a top speed of 200 kilometers per hour. Its successor, the HQ Monaro GTS 350, brought further improvements with a bigger engine, more power, and higher top speed. But police-spec Monaros were characterized by further upgrades, like modified suspension, upgraded brakes, and upgraded cooling system. The latter was particularly important, as these patrol cars needed to withstand the harsh conditions of highway duty and challenging chases. In some cases, these Monaros would even come with close ration manual gearboxes to improve performance even more. Upgrades wouldn't stop there. Police-spec Monaros would often come with reinforced engine mounts and upgraded clutches, while one of the most unique details definitely was the custom-calibrated speedometer, with exceptional accuracy at high speeds. On the other hand, police versions were simplified, stripped back on the inside, contrary to what civilian variants were, famous for their blend of performance, luxury, and convenience. Police versions were designed to be way more practical, to the point that sometimes they would even feature an additional fuel tank that ensured extended patrols without refueling stops. The Valiant Charger stands out as one of the most unique muscle cars Australian roads have ever seen. Lightweight, fast, and agile. It was all impossible for a car like this to remain unnoticed by police forces. Therefore, they soon enough became integral parts of various police patrol fleets, especially in Queensland. With a light engine and short wheelbase, the Charger was one of the best handling muscle cars in Australia. So, catching speeders seemed easier than with other cars. The most interesting feature of the Charger was its engine. The RT version, which was used by police the most, was the engine. It wasn't a typical V8 powered muscle car, but rather powered with 6 cylinders. But this high-performance Hemi engine with 265 cubic inches in displacement was equipped with triple Weber carburetors. With 225 kilowatts, it was on par, or better, than any V8 on the road. Weight savings made it quicker than the competition, with 0 to 100 kilometers per hour taking 6 seconds flat, which was exceptional back in the day. Some variants even featured a 340 cubic inch V8 with more low-end torque, but 6-cylinder units remained more memorable. Like other police spec cars, the Valiant Charger was also full of unique features. One of them is the transmission, with a specific rear axle ratio that was optimized for highway speeds. Also, police versions would come with a recalibrated tachometer, which would help officers use the full potential of this amazing engine. These Chargers were impressive performers, but they were practical as well. For example, police spec models would feature simplified vinyl-free interiors for easier cleaning, making the Valiant Charger the complete package. The golden era of muscle ended, but Ford continued to supply Australian police with amazing V8-powered patrol cars. From the early 1990s through the 2010s, we saw several impressive high-performance Falcons that have been chasing offenders on Australia's vast road networks with great success. Simply, the recipe never changed. Although modern, these Falcons kept the formula of their famous predecessors: V8 muscle, rear-wheel drive dynamics, and robust durability. These things never change. But modern cars brought further improvements, such as more power, better handling, and new technologies. Each police spec Falcon was one of the fastest sedans of its era, starting with the EB generation, introduced in 1991. Powered by a 5-liter Windsor V8, it features a max output of 165 kilowatts and a top speed of 225 kilometers per hour. The next generation, the L Falcon, brought further improvements, even though the changes were mostly evolutionary. The focus was on improved suspension and optimal engine mapping. The real change would come with the BA Falcon, the so-called FPV GT, introduced in 2002. It saw a new 5.4-liter Boss V8 with 290 kilowatts, and for the time being, impressive acceleration. Then, the FG generation, introduced in 2008, once again brought a new engine, this time the famous 5-liter Coyote, which was specially tuned for the Australian police with the max output of 335 kilowatts and the top speed electronically limited at 250 kilometers per hour. Police Falcons were always full of unique features and technical solutions. Heavy-duty brakes, upgraded transmissions, and reinforced chassis components are some of the things that come to mind first. But if we are about to talk about some really interesting unique features, we have to mention things like the stealth antenna setup or the famous front bull bars, designed for specific pursuit techniques. Customer dashboard layouts were there too, to house quintessential equipment like radios, radar systems, and speed detection. All in all, we could say this was the era when raw muscle design saw some of the most advanced law enforcement technologies of the time. It's impossible to make a list like this without one of the most dominant police pursuit vehicles Australia has ever seen. The Commodore was an integral part of highway patrol units from the late 1980s through the end of local manufacturing in 2017, and with rear-wheel drive, powerful V8 engines, and aggressive styling, it was the epitome of modern Australian muscle. With the blend of performance, durability, and let's not neglect that local heritage, it's no surprise that various police departments across the country favored this amazing car. The first one was the VN generation, introduced in 1989 with a 5-liter Holden V8 with 165 kilowatts. Then the VT generation came, with the max output increased to 220 kilowatts, and further improvements in terms of handling and refinement. In 2006, we saw a massive leap with the introduction of the VE Commodore, as it was powered by GM's LS2 V8, capable of producing 270 kilowatts. Finally, the last VF generation came in 2013, and it would remain active until 2017, with the LS3 V8 with 304 kilowatts and the ability to hit 100 kilometers per hour in just 5 seconds. HSV models ramp performance even further, with supercharged variants delivering up to 430 kilowatts. Of course, powerful engines weren't the only special thing about these interceptors. Hidden radar detectors, unmarked light setups, and integrated number plate recognition were just some of the features worth mentioning. Furthermore, these models would often come with further mechanical upgrades, such as limited slip differentials or special highway gearing, helping Commodore solidify its legacy as one of Australia's greatest pursuit vehicles. Which of these iconic police machines stands out to you? Share your thoughts and let us know which muscle car you'd want behind you, or better yet, in your garage. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.